So here we are. I'm going to do a book stream, which is basically a live stream, and I'm going to talk out books that I've read in the past and that I recommend to people. They're books that have shaped the way I look at things. So I'll just wait here some minutes until everyone arrives so I can start. I've got quite a long list. I've got quite a long list. After I finish the live stream or book stream, I'll put the list below in the description of the video, and it will have all the links to the books on Amazon. You might want to get it elsewhere, but I do have the all the links on Amazon anyway. So we're getting already 21 people so far. I did just start a couple of minutes earlier than 9 o'clock. So we'll just wait. Hi, NASDAQ. Things are fine, thank you. Yeah, fairly nice weather this weekend in London. I have been watching some of the golf on television, the US Open, but I've turned that off now, do the book stream, and then go back to watch the golf. Are you heading toward recession? You mean in the UK? I think we already are in a recession. Clown without Twitter account. The only reason why officially we're not is because all the economic numbers are manipulated. I would say the same thing for the US. The US, the UK, Europe, we've all been in recessions for the last 10 years. It's all like... it's not real. So we've got 40 people almost so far, 41. Good morning, Pedrito. Actually, it's evening here. I'm not sure where you are. Maybe you're in the West Coast or Hawaii. Mark Walsh, evening, Monaco. I actually started reading a book today that someone in a previous stream of yours recommended, The Strange Death of Europe. I have to look into that. Yeah, stagflation, George. I think stagflation. Inflation in the US is more like 5 or 10%, I would say. I mean, the 2% that you say there, clown, that's from official numbers. Don't believe it. I'm not going to talk about Tommy Robinson. I'm going to talk, it's a book stream, so I'm going to wait a few more minutes. I think Tommy Robinson, well, I'll go quickly. From what I know, he was given a suspended sentence over a year ago, and he was told not to offend again, and he did. So, and he admitted it. So he's got, he broke the law, basically. Latro from from Austin, Texas. Hi, Latro. Randall McMurphy. Where are you, my friend? I'm from Rotterdam. I'm in London. Where are you, my friend? I wasn't sure if you're asking me that. That's your screen name. Clown. Do you see production of gold as high in emerging markets? No, I don't think gold production is high at all. Yeah, Billy's upstairs with my daughter, so he's not here right now, so I just left him there. Hello, Silver Helm. Yeah, I actually thought you were asking where I was. That's okay. Richard Mack. So Mike Combat, Stockholm. Thank you, Monaco. Yeah, Taksumuk. Taksumuk, Mike, for being here. Stagnant deflation, then hyperinflation. Yeah, hyperinflation usually happens when the economy is not doing well. Use 003. Hello, Mario. So I think I'm going to start out. I'll just wait a couple of more minutes to see who's here at the moment. The question is, how long can these Masonic freaks that rule the world hold this fixed market system together? longer than we can imagine. Yes, Pat, you're right. But I don't think they can keep it going forever. Oh, Saren, happy Father's Day. Thank you. Tom Manley from Indiana. Good afternoon, Tom. Yeah, I saw Brazil and Switzerland 1-1. I think it's a good result for my sister. She's her husband's Swiss, her son and daughters are Swiss. She's Brazilian, so I think for her it was great. 1-1. Yeah, I saw the story that Russia sold 47 billion of treasuries in April, and that small amount is what drove yields higher. So that just goes to show that how the real market, how when people sell real treasuries, how it moves the market. And the reason why I say real is because a lot of the treasury market is based on derivatives, a lot of futures and OTC derivatives. The European banksters financed the Confederacy. Yeah, they did, the French and the English. And also, I guess the Russians actually helped the Union, which is ironic. Russians are friends of the Americans, but not the British, I would say. British burnt the White House down in 1812. They tried to break up the United States in the Civil War with the French. Tom Manley, will gold rebound or can they hammer another $30? Not difficult to say whether we'll rebound, but I think they've done the damage. I don't know if they'll do another $30. So I'm going to start now. I've got a list here. I told people earlier about the Bookstream. I've got about 17 books, and I'll go fairly quickly through them. It will take a while. And after the live stream is finished, I'll put a link below in the description of the recorded live stream with links to all these books that you can get them on Amazon. Don't have to get it there, of course. 17, yeah. I mean, I might stop before, but it's a lot, 17. But I just thought, I was looking at all, and I still have loads of books that would be interesting, but I thought these are. So I'm going to start with the first one. You probably won't be surprised with this one. It's called The Triumph of Gold by Dr. Franz Pick. And he was an Austrian, and I'll read a little bit about this. He moved to the United States, and it's a really interesting book. And it was written in around the mid to late 80s. And it was published just after he died. So it says, and in the introduction by Dr. Henry Jarecki, he says, and I read, Frank Pick, the world's foremost gold bug, is dead, a prolific writer and theoretician for the last 65 years. He was for 30 years the publisher of the Black Market Yearbook, which in deference to the respectability of his central banker clients, he renamed Pick's Currency Yearbook. So this guy was actually a gold bug, like most of us are, and he actually had a relationship with the central bankers. So it's very interesting. I'll read some of the stuff he says, and I read the end. And he says, "The triumph of gold," and I quote, "Throughout history, from the days of the pharaohs down to Mr. Baker," I guess when James Baker was the Secretary of the Treasury at the time under Reagan, gold has always been man's best protection against dishonest government management. And he says, "Gold is money. Gold has always been victorious over futile government attempts to dethrone it. The history of man's attempt to conquer gold is fascinating reading. But in the end, gold always wins because gold has no master." So yeah, I really recommend this book. It's only like 120 pages and very interesting. And I think he moved from Austria after World War One. He was in Europe for a while, and then yeah, very interesting guy. So that's Franz Spick, The Triumph of Gold. The other one is one that I hadn't looked at in a long time, and it's a really big book. It's called Money, right? Money. And it says, money, you shall have honest weights and measures. That's from the Old Testament there, and the Torah, honest weights and measures. And it's by James Ewart. And actually, I bought this in 2002. And you can see that James Ewart actually signed it here and notarized the signature as well. So it's really interesting. I'll show you the kind of stuff he has here. He has pictures of, he explains basically how fraudulent the system is. He goes over like the banknotes and explains how they've changed over the years. So I'll read here a little bit what it says about money. And that's from him. It says, you might consider this a mystery or crime book. It's about money, mostly your money, and about bankers, politicians, and theft by fraud. But because the perpetrators want to keep you in the dark, a clean explanation of this scheme has been hard to find. Now, however, money shows you in considerable amusing detail how the game is played. Here you learn how these people get your money by manipulating votes and the law. Did you know that fractional reserve banking is today's financial hocus pocus? It is. Banking and political insiders use it to cause inflation and thereby finesse trillions of dollars out of pockets, purses, and bank accounts of everyone else. So yeah, really recommend this. He dedicates this book. Some of the people he dedicates it to, one is Frederic Bastiat, who I've talked about. The other one is actually Franz Spick, Booker T. Washington, Lysander Spooner, Ayn Rand. The other one that is really interesting, a guy who fought the Federal Reserve a lot, is Wright Patman, U.S. representative from Texas. Also, Louis McFadden, he was a representative. He was the Ron Paul of his day. So yeah, really recommend this. It is a big book, and I'm not sure how much it costs on Amazon, but I've got the link there. So yeah, Money, you shall have honest weights and measures. Really good. It explains how the system works, how the money system works. So that's number 2. Number 3, I've got Ron Paul and the Fed. That's quite self-explanatory. I read that quite a few years ago, but I really respect Ron Paul, so I like that one. The number 4, The Secrets of the Federal Reserve by Eustace Mullins. I think it's one of the classics, and it must be read. Here we go. I'll read a little bit about it fairly quickly. Let's see. Forward. Yeah, on the forward, it talks about how Ezra Pound, who was a poet, and he was also arrested during World War I because he was against the war. Ezra Pound got him to investigate the Federal Reserve because Eustace Mullins wanted to become more of an author, like of novels. And then he started looking into the Federal Reserve, like in the late 40s, early 50s. And he was really he made it his life's work to expose the Federal Reserve. Lou Rockwell, I know Lou Rockwell. He's from the Mises Institute. I went to the Mises Institute in 2002. That's from George Assad. So that's 3. That was 4. Number 5 is The Law by Frederic Bastiat. The classic blueprint for a just society. That's one of my favorites. I really like his concept of how he talks about legal plunder, how our system right now, they use the law to basically not protect the individual, uh, his or hers property or liberty, but they use the law to enslave us. And yeah, 1850s French kind of economist, philosopher, short book, but really, really recommend this, The Law. So that was number 5. Number 6, one of my favorites, a very short book, but very interesting. War is a Racket, Brigadier General Smedley Butler. The most interesting part is towards the end, where I'll show you here, he compares how much money the big American corporations were making before World War One and how much they made during World War One. So, for example, U.S. Steel, their average profits in the last pre-war year was 105 million. Average profits during the 4 years of war was 260 million, so 259 million, you can see there. And it's amazing. For example, let's see, another one, General Motors, they went from making just under 7 million a year to making 21,700,000 every year during World War One. DuPont, wow, look at DuPont. They were making 6 million a year just before the war, and they made 58 million a year during the war, those 4 years of the war. So you can see why these guys want to have war, and it hasn't changed, and it keeps going. It's not just welfare, but it's also warfare. That's why I think it's really good, important book to read. So that's number 6. Number 7, actually 7, yeah, number 7 and 8, they're together in the link because you can buy them on Amazon as one book, which is interesting. So the first one is The Empire of the City. Basically talks about how the City of London is an independent city-state and they control the finances, Bank of England, LBMA. So really interesting book. So I read a little bit about The Empire of the City. It says the author presents a behind-the-scenes look at the secretive international policies of the British government, how their past success allowed them to rise to the top of a vast secret order of world finance. According to the author, he has pieced enough information together presented in this book, which clearly shows that a colossal financial and political organization is run from an area of London called the City. It's a corporation, the City of London. Due to its power, the city is claimed to operate as a super government of the world and is said to play some kind of role or have influence in virtually every major world event. Well, look at what happened in U.S. elections. It's the British MI6 who was involved in trying to stop Trump, not the Russians. This book provides a bird's eye view of British international finance and how it really works behind the scenes and hand in hand with various governments, political figures, and financial organizations. Yeah, really interesting. I mean, it shows you that, there are more American banks in the City of London than there are in New York. So, and together with this, they've put together a book that also adds this into the book, Pawns in the Game by William Guy Carr. That's one of my favorites as well. He was in the Royal Canadian Navy, William Guy Carr, and basically he explains the globalist agenda, New World Order, from way back, in 1905. I think that's when he was in the Navy, and he says it's all planned. So so let's see what it says here. William Guy Carr, at an early age of 12, the author was thoroughly indoctrinated into Bolshevik ideology by 2 revolutionary missionaries who traveled on the same ship with him out to the Orient in 1907. Unlike many others, he didn't swallow the bait they offered him, hook, line, and sinker. He decided to keep an open mind and investigate matters thoroughly before reaching any conclusions. His investigation and studies of all angles of international conspiracy have taken him to nearly every country of the world. Yeah, so it concludes, Commander Carr was determined to inform as many people as possible regarding the evil forces which adversely affect all of our lives and lives of our children. His book will be an eye-opener to parents, clergymen, teachers, students, statesmen, politicians, and labor leaders. Well, I think he died in the early 1959. I mean, William Guy Carr, he exposes the system, and he's the kind of guy they call anti-Semite or conspiracy theorist, but really interesting book. And it's together with this. It's one book, so you can read these two books together. I'll put the link on Amazon. So number 9, Adam Lebor, The Tower of Basel. Well, this book I bought a few months ago, so I haven't finished reading it, but I know a lot about it's basically about the Bank for International Settlements. So highly recommended. The parts that I've read, it just shows how all the allies during World War II, the Nazis, everyone, they were working together. They were still operating. Finance didn't stop. So the war was like a game for these guys, which is really disgusting, I think. So I'll just read here some of the comments about the book. It says, by Edward Lucas, author of Deception. He says, Tower of Basel is essential reading, meticulously researched and fluently written. It reveals a slice of the modern world's untold story, a gripping tale of covert networks, secret deals, and unaccountable, powerful individuals whose decisions shape our lives. Yeah, and the BIS is the head of the snake of this fiat money system. And it's like the City of London. It's a sovereign entity. Even though it's in Switzerland, the Swiss police cannot enter the building there in Basel. There you go. That was number 9. Number 10, one of my favorites, The Creature from Jekyll Island, G. Edward Griffin. So anyone who wants to know about the Federal Reserve, how it came about, you need to read this book. So I won't go too much over it, but I'll do a quick review. Basically, he talks about how the bankers met in secret in Hoboken, New Jersey. They got on a private train car in 1910, I think, and they went all the way down to Georgia, and they were calling each other on first name terms so that the servants and the people working around them didn't know who they were. No reporters. And once they got to Georgia, they took a boat over to Jekyll Island. And basically, they created the blueprint for the Federal Reserve. People like Senator Aldrich was there. The Warburgs were there. All the big bankers from New York and Europe met there. Number 10. What has government done to our money? Murray Rothbard. I've talked about this one several times, and I think it's a great book. It's a little bit like the other one I talked about, Money. It just explains what they have done, the fraudulent fractional reserve and fiat money system. And it's really fun. It's not very technical. That's the good thing about the Austrians. Their reading is really like anyone can read it. You don't have to be a PhD economist or anything. So just read from the back here. From the introduction by Murray Rothbard, let us first ask ourselves the question, can money be organized under the freedom principle? And he says, can we have a free market in money as well as in order in other goods and services? What would be the shape of such a market? And what are the effects of various governmental controls? If we favor the free market in other directions, if we wish to eliminate government invasion of person and property, we have no more important task than to explore the ways and Means of a Free Market in Money. So really important book. So we are up to number 12. We're going a little quicker than I thought. So after I finish this, maybe you guys, if you want to ask some questions, I'm free. I'll be here. I mean, these are all my favorites. It's difficult to say, but this is like really one of my favorites. I read this like before the financial crisis, 07 or 08, and it's one of the reasons I thought something bad might happen is because of this. Fiat Money Inflation in France, How It Came, What It Brought, and How It Ended, by Andrew Dickson White. So yeah, this just goes to show what happens when you start printing money. This was just after the French Revolution, just before Napoleon came to power, and France went on this experiment which had never been done, of printing what they called assignats, which was supposed to be backed by the land that the French revolutionaries had confiscated from the church. But in the beginning, they thought, oh, we'll just issue some of them, and then we'll retire them, or we'll do QE when the economy improves. We'll do quantitative tightening, or take it out of circulation. And every time they tried to tighten, the economy would collapse again. So they kept printing and printing. And that's what they're doing right now. But it's not just in France now. The whole world's doing this experiment. So I highly recommend this book. It was written, I think, early 1900s. Andrew Dickson White was actually president of one of the founders of which I think Ithaca University, or I'm not sure, or Cornell University. And he was actually a Skull and Bones, by the way. I'm not a Skull, but it's a good book. That's what I heard about Andrew Dickson White. Number 13 is it's a different book. It's more of a history book and not so much to do with money, but I think it's really interesting. It's about Venice, The Spirit of Venice, by Paul Strathern. And really interesting, The Spirit of Venice. Some people argue that the name Venice originates from Phoenician. The Phoenicians were traders, merchants. They were they handled a lot of precious metals. And one thing that amazed me about this book, The Spirit of Venice, is that Venice was like this kind of very powerful for almost 1,000 years, like from the late 800s to when Napoleon actually invaded and took over. And so they had a Doge of Venice. They had elections, and they had loads of Doges, and then it ended, I think, in 1798 or 800. So yeah, Spirit of Venice, really good historical book, fairly big book, but very interesting. Yeah, I think they are the origin of the mercantilist system, that the British push a little bit. So I would say it's like the British Empire. It was like the British Empire. It was similar because Venice is an island, a lot smaller, of course, but very powerful. So I recommend this. The other one is also another one that's a bit different from all of the ones that talked about money. And I got this book, The Templars, The Rise and Fall of God's Holy Warriors, by Dan Jones. I got it for Christmas last year. I'm halfway through it because I read other stuff. But some people think that, the international bankers are related to the Templars. And one interesting thing, in the beginning of the book, they talk about how they got like exemption from the Vatican and from all other kingdoms at the time. was around 1100, from paying taxes, and that's why they became so powerful. And they had to finance, of course, the Crusades. They had to people come from Europe to the Middle East, and that's how they started international banking, because people had to stop and pay for supplies. So I haven't finished it yet, but I think it's a good book to kind of understand maybe what's going on now. And some people say that the Templars, when, I think it was 1307, when the French king, banned them, the order, or that some argue that a lot of them went up to Scotland, and they don't, it's not an argument, they fled to Scotland. And so Donald Trump, where's his mother from? Scotland. Some people talk about how these people are all, in control. So I just thought it was interesting. I haven't finished the book. Number 15. Well, this one is really hard to get. It is on Amazon, but it's quite expensive because there's a limited edition. It's a Pocketbook of Gold by Jim Sinclair from JS Mindset and Peter Carlin. So it's a survival manual for monetary mayhem. I've talked about this one before. It's really good. It's similar to like Franz Pick book, but recommend it. Jacques Nalagoa, thank you for the donation on the super chat. What is he saying here? Please keep up the good work. Love your channel. Brazil tie with Swiss and World Cup. Difficult for Brazilians, but we will come back strong. Great show. Well, it's just a game. For as I said to the other viewers, my sister's Brazilian, her husband and family, they're Swiss. So I guess for her was the best result. So what does Jim Sinclair say about money? I'll just look at one of the, one of my favorite parts of this book is when he talks about gold allows you to be your own central banker. So it says, although a central bank is supposed to maintain the value and purchasing power of a currency, it has both the ability and the tendency to depreciate the wealth of citizens through excess money printing. Sounds familiar? Interestingly, while they issue paper money, they also maintain gold as a currency reserve. So there you go. That's why we should maintain gold as reserves as well. If they're going to have it, we should have it. So recommend this one. Not very long, and quite fun. And then he talks even about the BIS. Says BIS talks BS. I'll just read this quickly. The Bank for International Settlements, which is the bank for central banks, has also played a part in the masquerading of toxic assets by lowering the notional value of OTC derivatives outstanding in the market from the unfathomable level of 1.14 quadrillion. The number was recently and almost overnight adjusted to 592 trillion by the BIS using a bogus value to maturity accounting method. Yeah, the BIS was involved in that. So the BIS, they didn't fix anything after 08. This was written in 2010. So in the BIS is like, they're part of the, the manipulation. So we're almost there at number 16. One more to go after that. It's Gold Wars by Ferdinand Lips. I think he died about 10 years ago. Former Swiss banker. He even worked for the Rothschild Bank in Switzerland. So this is the book, Gold Wars. And it says, the battle against sound money as seen from a Swiss perspective. So I'll read some of the comments from people who read the book. Says here, Elizabeth Currier, president of Committee for Monetary Research and Education. Mr. Lips is to be admired as he has performed an important task to provide understanding of the gold as money moving through history, the recent developments to his own experience as a Swiss banker. So this is like from an insider who actually, is a gold bug and worked for the Rothschilds. Uh, and Lawrence Parks from the Foundation for Advancement of Monetary Education. Gold Wars is essential reading for anyone who is concerned about his financial future. Gold Wars is a must for anyone with an interest in the future of the global monetary system. So yeah, Gold Wars. Last but not least, this is a really interesting book and really entertaining, and it's about markets, and it shows how difficult it is to be a trader. Jesse Livermore, World's Greatest Stock Trader by Richard Smitten. Yeah, I highly recommend this book. Even my wife, she's read it a couple times, and she did work in the city years ago. But yeah, it's great even for someone who's not involved in markets. It's a good book. It's about the life of Jesse Livermore. And why do I say you might want to think again about trading? Well, because trading, according to the guy who's probably the greatest trader ever, is a full-time business. And he went bankrupt several times and made millions back again. So, and it talks about this family life, everything. It's really good. So there we go, the 17 books. As I said, once this live stream is recorded and posted on my YouTube channel, I'll put the links to all those 17 books in the description. So if you want to look at them. So now, yeah, we still got some time here. Maybe, we've only done 36 minutes. If anyone wants to ask some questions. Patrick, thank you for the donation on Super Chat. I appreciate it. Let's see. Thanks, Dax. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the book stream. I think it was one of you guys who suggested I call it a book stream, live stream and a list of books. That sounds pretty good, actually. Will Deutsche Bank dip below $10? I'm not sure where we are right now. I saw we went below around €9 a week or two ago. But Deutsche Bank is a zombie bank, I think. So they're hiding everything. BIS have usury. Well, of course, BIS is the head of the snake, and the system now is usury. It's they charge interest on something that doesn't exist. That's what fractional reserve is. They create deposits out of thin air. Mr. JL78 from Dublin. I read a book some years back from Joseph Stiglitz called Globalization and Its Discontents. He worked for the IMF and exposes their really bad practices with economies. Yeah, Joseph Stiglitz does expose the system, but yeah, I'm not really a fan of his economics. He's a socialist, so he's making people jump from one frying pan to the other. But I guess about the IMF, he's right. Antar Banchadad, hi from Morocco. Is there any good book how to trade crypto? No, I mean, trading is, you can trade. The Jesse Livermore book is good about trading. But no, I don't know any books about trading crypto. But if you know how to trade one thing, you can trade anything. Cryptos are just another market. Jaron Jackson Monaco, where should we invest crypto or precious metals? I think both. I mean, precious metals is more like a savings, really. That's how I consider it. Physical gold and silver. Investing is more like trying to risk things a bit more, get more capital gains. Yeah, so you need to decide how you want to balance it. I favor more precious metals. I do have some crypto, So, best website. Hi, best website. How are you doing? Uh, Shane Virtue. Hi, Shane from Silicon Valley, California. Great. Jaron Jackson. Thanks, man. You're awesome. Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for the compliment. So, Stephen Lister, will the Fed revert its policy and resume printing money? They probably will if things hit the fan, and some people argue that they're raising rates right now, uh, just so that when the next crisis comes, they have room to cut rates, and then probably they'll start printing again. There's the book about fiat money inflation in France. They kept trying to stop it and take the liquidity out, but it doesn't work. Once you start, it's like a drug, and you have to keep doing it. That's the thing about this system. H. Cohn, any opinions on the commodities market? Yeah, I think they're really undervalued against financial assets. When they're going to go up, it's difficult to say, but I don't think they have that much downside. Damien Wright, hi Mary, do you invest in Brazil? No, not at the moment. No, not. But I mean, not thinking about that. I have thought about maybe going back to Brazil, but not sure. It's probably a good time. I remember I went to Brazil 2.5 years ago, when Brazil was at the depth of the financial crisis, and I opened an account there, and I put a little bit of money in there in reais, and it's gone up in terms of pounds, but not much. Pad Maneko 64, very interesting book list. The authors all talk about how the system is an illusion. Yeah, pretty much. Uh, Shane Virgil, I heard this Federal Reserve did an inversion on fiat. What do you mean by an inversion on fiat money? I'm not sure I get that. Patrick, what's the likelihood of hyperinflation? Will there be deflation? Well, that's a good question. I mean, it could be either way. It's having gold and silver is a good thing in a hyperinflation or in a deflationary collapse. During the 1930s, even though gold was banned, and was confiscated, the mining stocks did really well during the Great Depression. Havoc Shorst, how high are the costs from extracting silver as a byproduct from copper? I'm not sure, but yeah, like silver, there's very little mining that's done exclusively just for silver. Like I said, it's usually a byproduct of copper. Damien Wright, Mario, how will Brazil expand under the BRICS agreements? Well, they'll probably start focusing more, their trade and export towards those countries, and maybe go away a little bit from the U.S. They might, become more part of the One Belt, One Road system, even though they're in South America. John Callan, any Peter Schiff books you like? I don't think I've got any Peter Schiff books, John. Um, what else? Best website. Will people ever be free from psychopathic tyrants? Yeah, they can be free. We can all be free from them. We just have to get away from playing their game. I know it's hard, but that's why I've done this book list, because this has helped me, knowing how the system works. And hopefully that will help you guys. I mean, I don't expect you to read it all at once, but it just really opens your eyes. And one thing that got me into this, reading about the system, was when I first bought gold, and I started looking into it, looking what learning about gold and how it was, and then you learn about monetary history, and it's all connected. Tom Manley, more and more gold is heading east. The reset is being set up as soon as China says it's time. You could be right, Tom. And I read something today. I think it was on Zero Hedge or Silver Investor, and it's by Hugo Salinas Price, a Mexican billionaire, and he talks about Griffin's paradox, which is when the reserve currency country is a fiat is a fiat system like the dollar is. The only way for other countries to accumulate reserves from the global reserve currency is to outsell the United States, for example, so they can have a surplus, so that they can have dollars. But under a gold standard, there's no the trade balance is always balances, because you have to pay for what you buy from abroad with gold. It has to be settled. So he wonders if Trump realizes that by trying to balance trade and the U.S. not have any more deficits is actually the way towards a gold standard. He asked that question, and I think it's a good question. Shane Virtue, how do you feel about Leo Wanta? Christopher Story, who was an advisor to Margaret Thatcher in the 80s, economic advisor, he used to talk about Leo Wanta. Isn't the mainstream won't touch it, but apparently there's trillions of dollars out there from the collapse of the Soviet Union that the Treasury, there's money out there, but I don't know. Do I think he's real? Yeah, I do, but I don't even know if he's still alive. Pad researched the Great Fire of London from Sunday 2nd of September to Thursday 6th of September 1666. Parliament declared all citizens lost at sea. They stole everything. Yeah, that's interesting. And is that when they brought in the commercial maritime law, Pat, instead of common law? Horst, is there a way to find out who did the criminal silver gold price slamming Friday? No, actually, because are you going to call JP Morgan or the CFTC and ask them? They won't check. I've tried it before. I've called the Bank of England a few months ago when there was another raid, and they don't want to know. I wrote to the FCA. I haven't heard from them. I told them, what they're doing. I sent charts. I've never heard from them. So no, we're, as I said, they're in charge, and they're all criminals, even the regulators. That's why I don't trust any of them. Pablo Pina, I heard the slam on gold was the ECB rates left on change, partial. No, it's got nothing to do with the ECB. On the day the ECB met, gold went up 25 euros and went up $5 in dollars. It was the day after that gold was slammed. It's got nothing to do with the ECB. George Assad, through the British Empire, the Rothschilds control maritime law. We were born in water, so the Rothschilds control us. Yeah. Yeah. Certificate of birth, the birth certificate, birthing. Yeah, I know. It's amazing. Lawrence Henny, have you heard of Lyndon LaRouche? And what do you think about his economics? I have heard of Lyndon LaRouche, and actually, when I worked in the city, I used to read some of his stuff. and I used to contact. I was in contacted some of the economists there. Uh, I don't agree 100% with his economics, and he doesn't seem to be against the central banking. Uh, he's too much. I don't know. I think he's better than what we have now, but I'm not sure. Yeah, but definitely interesting. He talks more about the real economy and how our economy has become, you know, the tail. Finance has become is wagging the body. With that, I agree with him. And a lot of the things has been saying for years that the British control things is becoming true because we saw how they try to prevent Trump from becoming president. Domingo, do you stock up on food as well as metals? No, no, don't do any uh, food stocking. I mean, I do live in London, but fairly close to the countryside. So, Mark Walsh, do you think Keynes' idea of Bancor had not been denied, which resulted in the subsequent rise of the US dollar, world would be a healthier place, financially speaking? No, anything that Keynes, uh, I, I don't know because I'm not sure the Bancor was supposed to be backed by gold, and yeah, I don't think it would be healthier financially because the bankers would have if it not wouldn't have been through the dollar, but it would have been through Bancor. So no, I don't. He was a tool of the bankers, Keynes, in my opinion. Ty Gani, please reply. Thank you. Thanks. What did Ty Gani ask? No one can own land in England. Hey, the Norman changed the land law. Yeah, I know the Normans did. Yeah. Um, uh, I think yeah. There's if you own a freehold, you own the land, but or a leasehold. I think I'm not too sure about that. Anyway, not my specialty. Keynesian economics was the destruction of real economics. Yeah, I agree. Keynesian economics is a way to justify the fraudulent fiat money system and big government. Lawrence Henny, have you heard of Lyndon LaRouche's Four Laws? Glass-Steagall. Well, yeah, he wants to bring Glass-Steagall, national banking. I don't believe in national banking because I think it's one of the pillars of communism. The national credit and banking. And I don't agree that we should have government doing things like that. I believe in small government, but I do agree with Glass-Steagall. Yeah, and I don't think governments should be involved in science or anything. I think we should have small government and let the free markets reign. That's why I don't agree 100% with LaRouche, even though I agree with some of the stuff he says. National banking is not a central bank. So what is it? National bank. That seems like just one national bank. That's, you know, I think banks should be like anything else in the free market. I don't think governments should create any businesses. They're just we don't should be as small as possible. Germain A, do you think the NHS is the time bomb to push the UK even further to unsustainable levels of borrowing? Of course it is. I just heard that they want to borrow another 20 billion to pump into the NHS. Borrow from whom? So the Norman family still control more than 80% of the land. Yeah, it's the landed aristocracy. What will happen to the derivative time bomb? Well, it will explode eventually, and all the banks involved will disappear, hopefully. So I'll take another 2 questions, and then we'll wrap it up, if that's okay. Deceive no more. What do you think about the Act of 1871? Wasn't that the great crime of 1871? Is basically when they um, killed silver, uh, even though you could still have silver coins, but they kind of limited the amount of silver you could use for transactions. I think it, yeah, for big transactions. Yeah, I think London was involved in this crime of 1871. Some people argue that the Rothschilds in London were the ones who were behind this. Yeah, the great crime of 1871. Let's see, one more question. Mario, where you been? Well, I've been here for about an hour. This morning I played golf, and that was about it. Deceived no more. This was the incorporation of the United States. Oh, that one as well. I mean, I think it was around the same time. Yeah, the United States is a corporation. It's the United States, isn't it? It's not these United States. And some people argue that all the debt that's been accumulated, it's not the debt of the people, but it's of the corporation, and that the citizens are like legal persons. But yeah, it's the same thing as that happened in England. It went into maritime law instead of the law of the land. So maybe that's why maybe the United States should go back to being these United States. So yeah, it's a really interesting subject, this thing about the corporation of the United States. All right, then. So thanks everyone for showing up for this book stream, live stream about a book list. I will, as I said, I will put the list with links if anyone's interested in getting any of these books below in the description. When this live stream is uploaded and put on my YouTube channel, it will be there. Yeah, thanks everyone, and I'll talk to you later. Have a good rest of the weekend. Take care. Bye.